Hi there, I'm CBS 8's Jenny Day. So glad to have you with me as I take you around San Diego. I'll catch you up on the top stories and look ahead at what's to come. So our top story, the young woman accusing several San Diego State football players of rape has filed a lawsuit in San Diego court naming the players. One of the named players is Matt Araiza, the All-American punter for the Aztecs last year, drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. CBS 8's David Godfredson, who interviewed the young woman last month, has obtained a copy of the lawsuit.
The civil case which we're filing is about my client, about what happened to her.
Attorney Dan Gillian said he filed the lawsuit Thursday afternoon on behalf of the now 18-year-old woman who claims she was raped in October by several San Diego State football players.
We're going to be asking for compensation for what's going to be a lifelong suffering.
The complaint names 3 San Diego State football players, as well as the LLC landlord that owns the house where the rape allegedly took place. One of the players, Matt Araiza, was drafted into the NFL. He's become known as the punt god, playing for the Buffalo Bills. The other 2 defendants, current Aztecs player Xavier Leonard and former San Diego State player Nolan Pa'a Evelico. The young woman says she was age 17 and intoxicated when she was gang raped in a bedroom during an off-campus party inside the house on Rockford Drive. She first spoke to me last month before the lawsuit had been filed.
It's been since October. I've been waiting. I've been dealing with this, and I'm most definitely ready to get justice for myself and to have them face consequences.
The young woman is not identified and referred to as Jane Doe in the complaint because she is an alleged victim of sexual assault. Less than 2 weeks after the alleged rape, San Diego police detectives had the teenager make telephone calls to the football players, and officers recorded the calls.
So the phone calls started off, the approach is really nice, almost as if I couldn't remember what had happened that night.
During one telephone call, one of the players, quote, confirmed having sex with Doe, even telling her she should get tested for STDs, according to the complaint.
I would ask them things like, well, why would you do this? I was bleeding. Did you not see that I was bleeding? Why was my neck covered in bruises afterward? And at those moments, the guys would get pretty nervous and they would start drawing back a little bit from how much information they were giving me.
Now, we want to emphasize this is a civil lawsuit. No criminal charges have been filed. The San Diego County District Attorney is currently reviewing whether criminal charges will be filed. Another top story: for the first time since receiving his 80-game suspension, Padres superstar Fernando Tatis Jr. faced the media this week and the fans and owned his mistakes, saying there are no excuses.
They were disappointed. Everybody's disappointed. I'm disappointed on myself. But I feel like we have a strong talk. We share stuff that is tough love. But, you know, I feel like we put everything on the table that it needed to be out there. And it's going to start slowly, one step at a time, to regain their trust again.
Yeah, as I had started to say, during his time out, he is set to get that long-anticipated shoulder surgery to hopefully come back better than ever. Well, here in California, roughly 3.8 million residents are carrying some form of student loan debt. That's nearly 10% of the population. That debt averages about $37,000 per person. And while this forgiveness will help them, many want to know what's being done to bring this student debt crisis under control for future generations. CBS 8's Richard Allen finds out.
Well, that's right. Well, President Biden's announcement promises to have a significant benefit for millions of borrowers. Some say more needs to be done to address the underlying problem, the enormous cost of higher education here in the U.S.
I think it's definitely going to help out a lot of people, that's for sure.
Patrick Connerny is a first-year MBA student at the University of San Diego and already has about $30,000 in student loan debt from his undergraduate education.
my personal opinion, you shouldn't take debt that you can't afford to pay off at some point, but I'm not going to say no. Can't say no to a gift horse right now.
While Patrick says this forgiveness will take some financial pressure off in the future when making decisions like buying a house, he says this doesn't solve the core issue.
I do think it definitely needs some reform. It has gotten way out of control.
The cost of education has exploded.
Alan Jin is an economics professor at USD. While he believes this loan forgiveness will benefit the 43 million borrowers nationwide who qualify, especially those who are lower income, he says the cost of higher education continues to outstrip inflation.
In the U.S., we put less in higher education than a lot of other countries, and it's more expensive for our students, and that's how they end up with a lot of debt.
Jin says that in recent years, the state of California has reduced its subsidies for the UC and Cal State systems, forcing them to raise fees significantly.
We're going to need more support, more public support then for higher education if we want to reduce future debt burdens.
We have to make it a high priority. We have to keep doing our share.
Tim Keene is dean of the Canal School of Business at USD, which as a private university does not receive state funds, relying on incremental tuition increases, which leads to out-of-reach costs for many students.
We've got to start untangling that issue. We need to be more inclusive, and to be more inclusive means we need to be more affordable. That's a lot of years to try to undo.
And Keene says that scholarships are one way to help meet this gap, encouraging alumni who have benefited from their education to pay it forward. But he also concedes that from a policy standpoint, a lot more needs to be done.
Richard, thanks. Well, San Diego is receiving nearly $12 million in state grants to build new homes for homeless people. The money comes from Governor Newsom's Home Key program, which is designed to create more housing for those experiencing homelessness. Newsom announced the $694 million program while visiting a Home Key site in LA. He says this program is an example of the more active role the state has taken to combat homelessness in recent years.
Some people, frankly, have given up on us, given up on the prospect that we can ever solve this issue. And I want folks to know they shouldn't give up. I want folks to know we're just winding up. I want folks to know we're just getting started.
In total, the money will help create about 12,500 new homes for people facing homelessness across the state. And this week, parents expressed their concerns over the closure of a park in Chula Vista. The city made a decision to temporarily close Harborside Park because of a homeless encampment right next to an elementary school. CBS 8's Regina Ureta went to a town hall meeting where she heard from parents and homeless advocates on both sides of the issue.
Families and homeless advocates are both saying closing down Harborside Park is not the solution.
Our children come first, period.
Tom Montanowitz, a father whose 6-year-old daughter goes to Harborside Elementary School, says he's fed up with the city's poor handling of the homeless issues at Harborside Park that's affecting the school. Right now, there is a fence and a green cover-up separating the two, but families say that is not enough.
Get rid of the junkies next to an elementary school.
In a town hall meeting with dozens of families, Tom spoke out about the fear he has for his little girl's safety and what she's witnessing.
Oh, children are witnessing this 100%. And I didn't even get into all the graphic details, but there is prostitution, open drug use, overdosed, dead bodies.
The city unanimously voted to temporarily close down the park on Tuesday, hoping to resolve some of the issues at Harborside Park. But families nor homeless advocates are content with the solution. The homeless organization Community Through Hope, who has been helping unsheltered families in Chula Vista, says the concerns of parents are valid, but calls the city's decision to displace dozens of homeless out of the park a failed Band-Aid.
There's on a fully given day over 100+ folks there when you actually count the individual people in the tents, who now that they're displaced are going to have to go out into residential areas. There is no shelter here in Chula Vista.
While there are wraparound services, there are no emergency shelters available in Chula Vista, making homeless people rely on services provided by the Health and Human Services Agency building. But those can take up to months, and some homeless don't even qualify.
Perhaps maybe the issue was having an elementary school next to a county services building that was always going to attract folks that were in need.
Both homeless advocates and parents are demanding the city open the park and take a different approach. Except families want the park to be open, but without homeless people. And advocates say a lack of housing resources won't let that happen.
During the city council meeting, Mayor Mary Salas also rejected to look at a similar proposal that mirrors LA County's ban on homeless encampments within 500 feet of schools. Reporting for CBS 8, I'm Regina Urita.
Regina, meantime, there continues to be a significant need for behavioral health workers around San Diego County. Local leaders and current employees talked this week about how they plan to not only bring in workers, but retain them as well. CBS 8's Chris Groh has the details.
And in talking about this subject and hearing others talk about it, it's an issue both not only in the future, but also right now, which is why Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says action needs to be taken.
And today is not about programs, it's not about buildings, it's not about beds. It's about the people who staff and fund and provide those treatment. We need more of them, we need to pay them better, we need to train them better, and that's what today is all about. And in the last 3 years...
And so let's give you the scale of this issue. According to a new report, San Diego County will need more than 18,000 behavioral health workers in the next 5 years to meet growing demand, to deal with the population growth and the fact that so many are leaving the industry. That's why today's symposium took place, to talk about actual solutions and ideas that could not only try to remedy the problem, but try to address it and also try to better behavioral health and how it is addressed here in this county. And when I was talking about the present issue, according to the county, they have about 17,000 workers in behavioral health in the current workforce, and that's about 8,000 short to meet current demand. So what are some of the solutions that were discussed today? Well, investing in competitive compensation. According to economists that worked with San Diego, the San Diego workforce, they say that that is going to be one of the bigger things, trying to make sure that people can be paid to not only afford to live here, but to make San Diego an attractive destination, but also build a regional workforce training fund to help pay for professionals to learn more, establish regional training centers. And one of the other sort of unique ideas, listen to workers regularly, not only about issues like with compensation, but about what they're dealing with day-to-day issues. So this is something that, again, will likely lead to some sort of legislation, and they're calling for legislation as well as funding. So continue to follow CBS 8 as this issue is discussed further, solutions are proposed, and we'll see exactly what action is taken in the future. Reporting from the San Diego County Administration Building, I'm Chris Groh for CBS 8.
Chris, thanks. Well, California is taking huge steps to get people into electric cars. The California Air Resources Board voted to ban the sale of all new gasoline-powered cars by 2035. California is the first state in the nation to do so. The plan aims to have 35% of new vehicles sold in 2026 be zero emission, meaning vehicles that are all electric, plug-in, hybrid, or hydrogen powered. That number then goes up to 68% by 2030 and 100% by 2035. Meantime, Californians will still be allowed to drive and buy used gas-powered cars and trucks. The new rule will require federal approval, and the Biden administration is likely to give it. And the recently passed Inflation Reduction Act includes $739 billion in spending. But how much of that can the average family expect to get, and what do they have to do to get it? CBS 8's Evan Narani breaks down how going green could be cheaper with the new bill.
The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the bill, as amended, is passed.
After passing in Congress and being signed into law last week by President Biden, the Inflation Reduction Act is now the most ambitious climate spending bill in U.S. history, devoting over $300 billion into energy and climate reform.
We've got wildfires burning in California, we've got floods, we've got hurricanes, over $300 billion investment. And what we must do as America to lead on this issue, and the crisis is evident, it is front and center every night on the evening news.
But what kinds of incentives, whether they be tax credits or rebates, can actually be passed on to us, the consumers? For starters, lower energy prices across the board should be a byproduct of the bill without you doing anything differently. But if you're starting to make changes in your home, you can start with $14,000 in money back for switching to electric appliances over gas or upgrading existing appliances. The already hot electric vehicle market could get hotter with $7,500 in tax credits for purchasing a new electric vehicle. You can also get up to $4,000 for buying it used.
We have never invested this much money in addressing climate change by addressing clean energy. We are a leader now in the world.
Now, of course, there are many stipulations like income requirements or types of products that qualify for these benefits. Many of the rebates are also geared toward low-income communities where, in some cases, 100% of that transition toward electric appliances could be covered by rebates. For installing solar panels, that drops down to about 30% that residents can deduct from their taxes.
This bill will kickstart the era of affordable clean energy in America. It's a game changer, it's a turning point, and it's been a long time in coming.
All of these changes come with the goal of diversifying the power grid, eventually depending more on clean energy and net zero emissions. Evan Irani, CBS 8.
Evan, thanks. And speaking of going green, if you've tried to get a scooter lately, you may have noticed there are fewer of them around than there used to be. That's because some scooter companies say they are having a hard time operating in San Diego with new, stricter rules in place. Jasmine Ramirez finds out how long San Diego's scooter shortage might last.
The new rules went into effect at the beginning of this month. If you've had a tougher time finding scooters, here's why.
In the past, scooters were often left laying on sidewalks or driven in areas they weren't allowed.
People trip over them. There are routinely scooters going on the sidewalk, which they're not supposed to be.
The new guidelines are meant to prevent that. Scooters must have technology that keeps them off sidewalks and parked inside painted corrals.
It keeps it organized and people know where to get them.
Bird notifies the rider when they go into prohibited areas. It came as a surprise to Jocelyn and Jason.
I was beeping and then we checked the app and it gave us a message on the zones.
The city reduced the number of operators allowed from 7 to 4. Bird, Spin, Lime, and Link all got the green light. However, you won't find all 4 with scooters on the streets.
What we've seen so far in the first 3 weeks, 3 of the scooter companies have withdrawn while they have to work on their technology. Bird's the only one that's been out there this last week.
I reached out to the companies. Lime said the new requirements are stricter than any other city in the world and caused an unnecessary disruption of service. Without the proper technology, Lime and Link tell me they've paused operations in San Diego. For now, this means fewer scooters.
That's good. Yeah. Could we get rid of all of them permanently?
But it's not good news to everyone.
I know they're very useful, so if they take them off the streets, it makes it very inconvenient.
Bird now requires riders to scan an area with their phones when they're parking the scooter. This ensures it's parked in the designated parking corrals. Jasmine Ramirez, CBS 8.
Jasmine, thanks. And right now, the city of Carlsbad is under a state of emergency for bicycle and e-bike safety. The declaration came Tuesday after collisions in the city continue to go up, even resulting in some deaths. According to the city, there have been 57 collisions involving cyclists this year so far. 2 people were killed in collisions in the past 2 weeks. Collisions this year are on track to pass the total 62 in 2020. 2021 had 100 total collisions. The declaration will allow the city to focus on resources to prevent more crashes. It'll be in effect until a council meeting on August 30th, when the council will decide whether to ratify it. Now, emergency service dispatchers are a lifeline between someone in danger and the help they need. The San Diego Sheriff's Communications Center answers an average of 800,000 calls for service each year. And to keep up with that high volume, they're looking for more men and women to join their team. CBS 8's Rocio de la Fe takes us inside the Communications Center and shows us what it takes to answer the call.
The Sheriff's Communications Center is the first line of public safety. Here, dispatchers answer thousands of calls each day. It can be a challenging job, and to show you, they even put me to the test.
911 emergency.
I got a young man who's been shot.
It's the call that no one wants to make, but one that emergency services dispatchers at the San Diego Sheriff's Office are ready to answer.
This is the Sheriff's Department. How can I help you? It requires us to really think on our feet and act quickly.
Answering the call is not as easy as it seems. Dispatchers like Gina Thompson and Samuel Peters are some of the 120 staff members who answer over 2,000 calls each day. And to be able to do so, you have to go through extensive training, which can take up to a year to complete and pass what's called the critical test, which looks at your typing skills, mapping, comprehension, and memory skills.
That test challenges that if you can think quickly and respond to those scenarios. We have to, we're typing all day long, and spelling is important. How fast you can type is important.
I even tried taking the test and found out just how challenging it can be. The vigorous training helps dispatchers respond to the high volume of calls. Dispatchers answer to all of San Diego County, including any of the unincorporated parts of the county, as well as 9 contract cities.
If you want to make a difference and you want to help somebody, then this is the kind of job that you could do that.
The job can also be intense. The key, says Thompson and Peters, is to remain calm.
Generally, you're talking to somebody on one of the worst moments of their life. They can be upset, they can be crying. Their sense of time is different when they're in an emergency. So when you remain calm and are able to help them out, it really helps them stay calm.
I believe that you need to have your heart in the right place and want to serve and protect the community.
To become a dispatcher, no experience is needed. You must have a high school diploma and pass the critical test and be willing to have a flexible schedule. As a trainee, you'll earn a little over $26 per hour, and once a dispatcher, you'll earn a little over $29 per hour. For more information about how to apply, head on to CBS8.com and click the Help button. Rocio de la Fe, CBS 8.
So thankful for those who do step up. Interesting, Rocio, thanks. Well, this week, a major step forward in improving international travel with Mexico. Construction started for the long-awaited second border crossing at Otay Mesa. The new port of entry will include 4 lanes, and travelers will have to pay a toll once they've exited the inspection point on the U.S. side. That toll revenue will be split with Mexico. Experts say the 4-lane system will lead to faster, more predictable and secure border crossings. The project is expected to be complete in September of 2024. Well, Mayor Todd Gloria has made his pick on who gets to redevelop the Midway District Sports Arena property. He chose Midway Rising's plan for the 48-acre property, which is owned by the city of San Diego. It includes more than 4,000 homes, nearly half of those affordable housing. There would also be a new 16,000-seat sports arena and a 250,000 square foot retail center, as well as 20 acres of parks and open space. The City Council has final say and will consider the proposal next month. Well, the city is demanding for the downtown California Theater to be torn down after deeming it a hazard to the public. CBS 8's Jasmine Ramirez speaks with the city about the safety concerns and what actions they're taking.
The California Theater has been shut down for 3 decades. The city says it's in a state of disrepair and a danger to people walking by.
You'll find the old theater with busted windows and graffiti on the corner of 4th Avenue and C Street.
It is definitely a hazard. It has been fenced up.
The city says it's structurally unsound and at risk of collapsing. Despite no trespassing signs, people are still going inside.
Trespassers have illegally breached into the building and have potentially even been living there. They're visible from atop of the building, and it is not safe for them to be there.
Businesses nearby notice the foot traffic.
We do get homeless people that come in and try to cause problems. It'd be nice to not have to deal with that type of stuff so often.
The theater owner was sent a letter on August 10th. The city asked them to vacate, board up, and ultimately tear down the building. Now a third party is working with the city as the theater owner went into bankruptcy. The third party has put the property up for sale.
The city's code enforcement has referred the case to the city attorney for potential civil or criminal prosecution if the owner does not take action.
And the city is concerned about pieces of the building falling down onto the sidewalk. They plan to close part of 4th Avenue to create a safe pathway for pedestrians. Reporting downtown, Jasmine Ramirez, CBS 8.
Jasmine, thanks. Well, do you feel overworked, burnt out, and not rewarded for your hard work? Some workers are saying, fine, they'll just quietly quit without resigning from their job. CBS 8's Abby Alford shares this new work culture going viral on TikTok and how to deal with it.
This term quiet quitting on TikTok doesn't technically mean you're quitting your job. You're just quietly pulling away from your 9 to 5, doing the bare minimum. Older generations may balk at it, but this could wake up some employers and help the workforce.
I recently learned about this term called quiet quitting.
The term quiet quitting is making quite the comeback since the 1999 movie Office Space, with the hashtag gaining more than 20 million views on TikTok.
You're not outright quitting your job, but you're quitting the idea of going above and beyond. You're still performing your duties, but you're no longer subscribing to the hustle culture mentality that work has to be your life.
In American culture, we have what's called an ideal worker norm, which is the best worker is available at all hours.
San Diego State University Associate Professor of Psychology Dr. Lacey Barber has published her research on telepressure in the workforce.
These conversations are happening at all age levels in the organization.
The pandemic sparked this new work culture and is putting mental health first, where this quiet quitting means workers are not going the extra mile, not working overtime or checking emails and text after hours. Barber says before, the office had structure, but now remote work creates fewer boundaries, leading to more burnout and job creep, where you're tasked with more work than you are paid for or not rewarded.
Not doing the job of 2 to 3 people, stuff like that.
This comes at a time when Gallup released a poll that shows in 2020, worker engagement went down for the first time in a decade to 36% and continues to dip to 32%. Barber says there needs to be what she calls sustainable engagement amongst coworkers and managers.
So now it's about how can we signal to each other consideration for flexible schedules without obligation.
This could be a wake-up call for all employers.
So very important for retention. Losing workers is really costly. So I think there's some upside for employers and managers.
UC San Diego Professor of Management Elizabeth Lyons is an expert in teleworking best practices.
And I think making these adjustments is going to result in a more productive workforce and more productive companies. It does require upfront effort.
That effort from all fronts could create a more namaste work culture.
Well, it's past 5. I better clock out.
Abby, thanks. Well, we are getting a new look at the cost of raising a child now. Most parents would argue their kids are priceless, but economists say the average is now up to $300,000. It's a good thing they're cute, right? And for many, it doesn't stop at 18. So with inflation spiking the cost of almost everything, moms and dads are shelling out about $18,000 a year per kid. No surprise, food is the #1 culprit, according to the Brookings Institution. Their study shows the cost of raising a kid increased by $26,000 or 9% from just 2 years ago. It took a wide range of expenses into consideration, like housing, haircuts, and sports equipment, because it has all gone up. For many families we spoke with, clothes, toys, and back-to-school supplies are also breaking the bank.
Aside from gas, and health insurance, you're looking at groceries, diapers, typical day in and day out things.
Most schools or daycares are close to $1,000 a month, so that's another like $12,000 a year alone.
Ooh, yeah, the study pointed to ways to cut costs. For example, some families are trying out meatless Mondays and clean out the fridge Thursdays. Now, we did also speak with a few people who are not planning to have children. Some say money is a factor in their decision. Well, now to some answers about a mushroom mystery. As I continue to take you around San Diego, a family spotted something growing on a large tree in their yard. They posted about it online, and it turns out a lot of people are seeing them growing on other trees around town. So we sent CBS 8's Anna Laurel to try to figure out exactly what they are and what you need to know about them.
All right, these are the mushrooms in question. The family that lives here says an arborist told them that these mushrooms were killing their tree.
Abby Stevens posted this picture online, asking neighbors around Mount Helix if they know what it is growing on a tree in her yard.
Yeah, just growing out of some wood.
I reached out to Ivo Fadak with Mindful Mushrooms in El Cajon. He immediately told me this is a reishi mushroom.
That's it in nature, and we kind of control it in a different way.
Mindful Mushrooms organically grows everything from oyster and shiitake mushrooms to lion's mane and, yes, reishi.
They don't taste good, but those are real medicinal. So they're like, in China, they call it the mushroom of immortality.
Should they leave them alone? Should they trim them off, throw them away? What should they do?
I would just leave it alone. I mean, eventually they'll drop spores. If you smash them, they're just going to spread even more.
So with that knowledge, we went to find Abby, and underneath her family's beautiful pepper tree with mushrooms growing at its base, her husband told us a tree professional told them the shrooms were killing the tree. I contacted the San Diego Mycological Society, the fungi experts.
This is a parasite because it's eating the tree.
Pat Nolan is a plant pathologist. She's been with the society for years. She says a fungus can be in a tree years before you actually see its fruit growing on the surface.
Cut this tree or just to keep an eye on it for a while?
I would just let it be. Yeah, I would just keep an eye on it and let it go.
Because it can take years, you said, decades.
Right. Before it kills it.
These rishis are growing like crazy around town right now because of the humidity. If you see one growing, it won't hurt you, your child, or your pet if you touch it or even eat it. But Nolan and Fadak both say, don't just pick up a mushroom and taste it in the wild.
Because it could be poisonous.
It could. It's just better to be safe than sorry and just go buy it at the store versus, and a dog's probably peed on that a few times.
In San Diego, Anna Laurel, CBS 8.
Very interesting, Anna, thanks. Well, now to a bobcat that visited someone's front porch in Escondido. It happened Sunday morning right off of Rockhoff Road. Lori Wilson sent us this video taken from inside of her house. She says her husband was leaving for work when he noticed a really big cat walk into their courtyard. The bobcat drank from their fountain, then explored the courtyard for a bit, then wandered to the side of the house. He eventually went around their pool and disappeared. We've all got to coexist, right? As always, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for staying informed. Hope you join me each week as I take you around San Diego. For CBS 8, I'm Jenny Day. Take good care.